ladies and gentlemen of the listening audience. You're listening to Health in Harlem on WHCR 90.3 FM New York, the voice of Harlem. And my name is Maurice Selby.
And my name is Giorgio Malouf. Today we have a couple of guests here on Health in Harlem. So first of all, I'd like to introduce our two people that I've actually went to college and high school with. So can you please introduce yourself, Gargi?
Hi, my name is Gargi Padki, and I'm a City College grad, 2015.
How's it going, Harlem? This is Mohammed Faisal. I'm also a City College grad, 2016, and I'm here to talk about financial health.
That's what's up, man. We got the City College team in the house tonight. And of course, we have our very own DJ here as well in the studio, also a current City College student in the Sophie Davis School of Biomedical Education.
DJ, thank you for making it out during your finals. It's always lovely to hear from you.
Of course, I love coming here, and it's worth it.
That's
All
what's
right.
up.
So let's get started. Mo, can you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing since City College, this mission that you've been on, and what you're trying to accomplish? Because I've seen you do nothing but good things lately, and you have great people on your team, such as Gargi. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's been something that I've been working on for about 2 years now with my team and my founding member, Gargi Padki here. So what we do is that we started an organization that decided to fill a void that really public education has failed to provide to all of us, and that is teaching us financial literacy. And what I mean by financial literacy is knowing how to use your money, knowing how to be on top of your money, and getting the most out of your money, which is really a tool. So this is a project that really, for me, started a long time ago. You know, I grew up in Astoria, Queens. I lived a good portion of my life in South Jamaica, Queens. And at some point around middle school, right around 2005, 2006, me and my family, we had to move around a lot. And we pretty much got priced out of our neighborhood of Astoria, Queens. Wow. We were paying rent. And one thing that my father, who is an immigrant from Bangladesh, and I myself am as well, I came here when I was 3 years old. And pretty much he didn't understand the credit system here. And he got credit cards and he messed up his credit. And that really takes you out of the running for getting any sort of home, any sort of financial stability. So my mom, on the other hand, who has a middle school education coming from Bangladesh, learned from this. She saw the importance of credit score, and she built her credit score up. And while going to work at Duane Reade and being a cashier at Duane Reade, she saved up for a down payment to buy us a house in South Jamaica, Queens. And to me, that was the first time I really saw the power of financial literacy and what it could do and how life-changing it could be. Just imagine being a 10, 12-year-old kid and having to move around, having to make new friends, having to get used to a new environment. It was really tough for me. I could always look back on that. And having the stability, yes, we moved far away from where I was. I missed a lot of my friends. But having the stability of a home, knowing that no landlord could take that away from you, was a big deal. So now, fast forward, we're at City College. The people that I grew up with, played a lot of ball with, basketball with, were still struggling financially. And it wasn't like they didn't have full-time jobs. They all worked. They all have families to support. And maybe they weren't going to college. Maybe they didn't finish high school. Whatever the case may be, they had no idea what it takes to budget, what it takes to build your credit score, and how that could open you up for a house, which is an asset, which you could use to leverage to get a business and many other things. Mm-hmm. So that really made me think about, what did I learn in high school about this? And it was nothing. You know, I went to Brooklyn Tech, which is a top-notch school in Giorgio's nodding because we go back. We went to Brooklyn Tech together, which is a top-notch school, and we only had one semester of economics, which didn't really teach us anything about, you know, what it takes to manage your finances. So with that idea, I spoke with one of my first friends in college, Gargi, because she was working on a project called Speak Up, Speak Out, which was to raise awareness around domestic violence. And I asked her, you know, how did you really get started with this? And then how did you go about marketing it or getting people on board, getting a team? And then she pointed me towards the Colin Powell Community Engagement Fellowship, which is you design a project plan to connect the surrounding community with the college community. So that's when I looked into that fellowship. I applied, and luckily I was accepted, and that gave me a boost, gave me the confidence to go move forward with my project. And now we're here, pretty much. And right now our goal really is to innovate the way financial literacy is taught through the use of technology, such as smartphones. One thing that I saw is that if you want to get to the next generation and teach them to be financially savvy, you got to get them where they are, which is on their social media, which is on their phone. And instead of giving them meaningless content to consume, we're trying to be there to show that, being financially savvy, being on top of that is cool. It's something that you want to be proud of. So that's pretty much where we're at right now.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. And so you spoke about the motivation for all of this, and you spoke about what you're trying to accomplish. And by the way, is the Colin Powell Fellowship something that's open to the public, only to City College students? What are the requirements to apply for that?
So it's open to City College community only, I believe so. But you don't have to be in a major that's under the social sciences, because General Colin Powell went to City College, and all the social sciences are under his name, such as psychology, economics, which is what I graduated with. But it's open to engineers. It's open to Sophie Davis kids. It's open to architecture kids. So it's really open to everyone, and I recommend it really to give you a well-rounded education. You get a chance to go to DC, you get a chance to meet General Colin Powell and other nonprofit organizations that are working to make this world a better place. So I totally recommend it, and it gave me such a huge boost. It was the first time ever, because in high school I was a slacker, so it was the first time I ever actually won something academically.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, it's for something that I care about.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That was such a great feeling for me. It really boosted me to another level, more than what the money that it provided can, or the recognition that it could provide. The mental psyche that it gave me, it was unmatched.
And so you started to attract people who are like-minded, like Gargi, to your mission. And I see that you guys have been reaching out to public institutions, middle school, high school students. So who are you targeting to teach about this financial literacy, and what have you guys done so far in the community? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when the idea started, it was to really, and it still is, to reach out to disadvantaged neighborhoods, immigrant neighborhoods, people of color neighborhoods that are really where a lot of financial predatory activities occur, such as having check cashing places.
Yes, on every corner.
On every corner. And you know what? It's right next to the liquor store, and it's right next to the lotto store, whatever it is. It's like, hey, you go in there, you already give them half your check, and then with the other half, you could buy some, liquor, some lotto tickets, hoping, wishing for things to happen, instead of actually feeling empowered to take control of your finances. And that's something that I learned early on. My first job, I worked at a KFC behind bulletproof glass, but I loved it. It was my first job. I had money, and I was able to control my own, things. I could get the things that I wanted. But then I never had a bank account. So I used to go in there and I would cash my check, and they would take a certain percentage of it. And I'm like, for what?
That's right.
For what? So then luckily, I was lucky to have an older sibling who put me on to things, and he got me a bank account. And from there, it was like I wasn't paying any fee. I could direct deposit it. I could buy things online instead of buying it at store, where I could end up saving money. So really, I saw a need for that there, because the neighborhoods that I'm from, neighborhoods that are similar to Harlem, neighborhoods that are similar to in Brooklyn, in Fort Greene, where I grew up for my high school life. These kind of activities, all we really need is information. We don't need handouts. We don't need somebody coming in feeling like a savior. We need the right information. We can't be fearing banks. We can't be fearing the financial institution is there to serve us. So that's really what the idea of starting out and teaching it. Now, I was lucky to have a great professor here at City College. His name is Glenn Patterson. He's a management professor here in the economics department, and he was really one of the first people that when I ran into him, he really was inspiring his kids in the classroom. He was mentoring them. When you come in as a kid looking to do business, or at least in my perspective in the business major here at City College, this is not Harvard Business School. This is not Columbia undergrad. You don't think you're going to be making millions or potential to be big time managers and big time CEOs, but he was talking about these things. He was talking about entrepreneurship and what it took, and he was talking about what it takes to get A's in classes, and grades were part of just something that should be given, but there's more in college that you need to get out of, right? And for me, I was like, what? Like, does he realize he's in CCNY?
I just paid tuition, and I was coming here to get a textbook and to talk about mastering that textbook, but he's talking beyond that.
Yeah. And he's showing us how to like get textbooks without having to pay the outrageous amount for it, and really using the power of the internet, which is really a great equalizer if you think about it. And to me, that was great. And when I first had my idea, one of the big things I did was reach out to him, me and Gargi both, because, we wanted to take it beyond just the school project. And him being someone who has a background in entrepreneurship and who kind of took me under his wing, and he's actually a co-founder with me with the Money Hub. And he's somebody that believed in me, right off the bat, right after graduation. And that's something that I'm very grateful of. And another organization that believed in what we're doing is this organization not too far from here. It's called Brotherhood Sister Soul. And they were one of the first organizations that we went to. When Gargi was working on Speak Up, Speak Out, they actually gave her a shot to like kind of present her idea and everything. And then I did the same thing. They took a chance on us. I was in a small room with maybe 10 kids max, with a piece of paper and a pen and a PowerPoint, and ready to talk about expenses to come in college. It was titled was it expenses in college for broke kids, or like like the broke college kid or something like that, So and the idea was completely different. It's not like you're going in with a broke mentality. You're going in knowing that there's going to be a lot of expenses that are going to come, and you're going to have to budget for them. And something that I did recently, because this is our third annual time that we went back and we spoke with their graduating seniors. And one of the challenges that I put forward to them was that imagine if you could graduate with no debt meaning bad debt, like credit card debt. Like student loans is an investment in yourself. So that's a good debt. That's an okay debt. But credit card debts is not an okay debt. And the reason I tell them that is because you guys are credit babies. You're getting a credit card to build your credit history, not to spend with it. And so I put that challenge forth with three things. One, graduate with no bad debt, have a savings, whatever it is. And third, graduate with a 750 plus credit score.
Wow.
And I put that forward to him. And I was like, if you achieve that, you take a screenshot, you DM our company page at Money Hub NYC, and we're going to send you an Amazon gift card.
Awesome.
That's what's up.
Man, that's awesome, and it's a great incentive. And now, Gargi, before we take this next commercial break, I was going to ask you, can you tell us a little bit more about Money Hub and what it is and what it represents?
Yeah, so Money Hub, we started out doing workshops with students, and my real goal with it is to keep it on an interpersonal level where Mo or myself or someone from our team is out there in the community meeting with students and getting to know like the specific needs of our population. What's really cool about the workshops is when we go in, we sometimes get invited to come back to speak to parents. So now we're not only impacting the children and their vision of their own financial future, but we're going and we're directly impacting these families. So what are things that we're doing to actively change the culture in the home around money? So that's been really awesome to watch. Also, with learning from our students, that's a big part of what I stress to our workshop leaders. Is when you go in there, you are there to listen and to learn, because kids are always surprising me with how much smarter than me they are. If there's ways that we can talk to them and like learn what are their needs, what are the things that they want to do, like they want to impress girls, fine, but what are the things they're going to have to do to impress those girls? Like, they want to get a car, fine. How are we going to get that car? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how we can take these role models that we see in the media who tend to be balling out and how we can ball ourselves, but in a way that's smart and totally feasible and within our reach, and not extravagant dreams, not, diamonds and things like that, but stability and security. Like, having a car, which is an awesome thing to have in New York.
Yeah. So kind of more of achieving this financial freedom almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short 2-minute break, and whenever we get back, we're going to hear more from Mohammed and Gargi about financial literacy and also how that ties into your health, your well-being, and how you can budget for these unexpected circumstances that might or usually do arise in these kinds of cases where you might have to use a medical expense line that you weren't expecting to. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't touch the dial. We'll be right back on Health in Harlem here on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Health in Harlem. Today we have our guests Gargi and Mohammed, co-founders of Money Hub, which is an initiative they're trying to bring about and have established already in order to increase financial literacy within the youth. So during the break, Gargi, you were talking about how you wanted to discuss stress. So, financial stress and how, more money, more problems. So
More money, less money, or more money, more problems.
Money,
But
problems.
managing your money, less problems, I guess.
Having money is a problem. Not having it is a problem. Having it and thinking that you don't have it is a very common problem. That's where budgeting comes into the equation. So budgeting is a way you think, oh, that's something my mom does. My mom clips coupons and my mom goes to Costco and thanks for all the, cans of Coke, Mom, but I'm not going to budget. That's something that people do as they get older. But budgeting is a way that you can have money to do the things you want to do and still feel secure, still feel like you have money, you have a backup plan.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's something that is at the heart of what we do. We started out, our whole target demographic is middle schoolers, high schoolers, and then young adults, college kids. And one of the way that we bring budgeting to them is by first getting them to think about what do they value. Value is like something that you find important to you. And they're neither good nor bad. I could value security, Gargi could value popularity. It doesn't mean mine's hold a higher weight. It's really what's important to you, and whether you know it or not, subconsciously, your money is going towards things you value. So why not be honest with yourself about it and really put everything into perspective? So that's number one. Number two is visualization. What do you visualize yourself as, and what are some of the things that you want to have, whether it be experience, whether it be an item. Now, the next step with that, we have them write it down. And then turn it into a SMART goal, which is an acronym: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound. And that turns it into from being a very vague little, something that you wrote on a piece of paper to something that's real. And we even have them draw it out. Why not? Because it's really for you. So then after that, we tie our budget around that. So now you're budgeting for your dreams. I always like to say that if I didn't really learn financial literacy the hard way, for me, because we don't test our kids, because when it comes to financial literacy, you're not going to get a piece of paper and going to have to fill out multiple choice. Life is going to test you. You're going to find out, when that bank account hits negative, then you'll know for sure. So basically, we have them budget around their dream. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Make sure you have a roof over your head. Have you budgeted for that? Are you paying rent? Do you have a roommate? Whatever the case, maybe you're living with your parents, which is a great thing, which is what I did for my 5 years in college. And I saved a lot of money because of that, and a lot of great food instead of eating, ramen all the time.
Ramen.
And then, of course, food in your belly. And then after that, now you're budgeting for your dreams. Let's say you want to become a DJ. Let's say you want to become a YouTuber. As a lot of these kids that I go to, that's their future goal. That's the next generation. They all want to be YouTubers. They all want to be artists. They all want to be game developers.
So interesting, but yes.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. And I tell them, hey, go for it. But you got to have a plan.
Yeah.
So, and that's really what a budget is. It's a plan. So now that you made sure that you have a roof over your head and food in your belly, and you could travel places, transportation, now you could put that money that's left over from that towards your dream. Towards a drum set, towards a MacBook to use for making beats, whatever it is.
Final Cut. Get a Final Cut Pro.
Final Cut, that's right.
A course that'll maybe teach you some of these skills that you need.
Absolutely, and I tell them to be frugal. Hey, if you a lot of college I went through teaching myself through websites, through
Yeah.
YouTube pages, and I'm sure a lot of us in here could agree with that. So, whatever you need to learn, you can learn on your own pretty much. And then, if it need be, maybe you take some lessons, whatever it is. But the point of it is that once you budget, you put everything into perspective that, hey, I can live for another month while I'm trying to achieve my dream. And that's really the bottom line of a budget. And when it comes down to it, it's as simple as having your phone and budgeting. It's as simple as downloading an app, linking your bank accounts, your credit cards to it. So then you don't even have to put your expenses in. They all just go straight in there. And then you can set certain limit on your budget where you get an alert like, hey, you're going over your entertainment budget number, or you're going over your food budget number, which I'm pretty sure we all ignore, right?
Yeah.
Because we all eat, like
yes.
Coffee budget.
If
in
there's
New
any
York.
budget breaker, that's food.
So-
In New York City.
So Mo, let's get a little bit more specific. What's the breakdown look like in terms of how much you're saving and how much you're budgeting for future investments in yourself? Because when you say paying for your dreams, I'm thinking you're investing in yourself.
Yeah.
So do you follow or do you recommend the 80-20 rule where it's like basically whatever your age is minus 80 should be what you're investing versus what you're saving? Or do you have a more conservative approach that you recommend?
So investing is an interesting topic right now because it's a trend. It's a trend, telling people all about investing, just like how it's a trend to bash student loans pretty much without really understanding what is the reason of a student loan. And I'll break it down for you. You get a student loan knowing that you're taking an investment in yourself and that that once you graduate and that 6 months pass and that you have to now pay back your loan amount, that you are in your career to where you can do that, or in your field to where you can do that. Now, if you know that your major requires getting a master or getting a PhD or maybe a doctorate beyond that, then maybe you should budget towards a school such as a CUNY where you go there and then you go to, I don't know, like a Columbia for your med school, something like that. But the point of it is
Or
that you
Sophie
take
Davis,
or
where
Sophie
you-
Davis, and you end up getting
CUNY Honors College, where you get
where you end up, like getting same degree for a lot less, So back to my point of investing, it's a trend right now. I don't think people should go into it without really understanding what it is to invest. Investing is just really having money and then having it grow, and then also taking on risk. Is the whole concept of high risk, high reward, low risk, low reward. One of the lowest risk things is a saving account, right? But then also it yields you the lowest reward, 0.01%, whatever it is. And then one of the highest risk could be, something like opening a business, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not sure if it will succeed or not. Of course, you go in and you're gonna think it's going to succeed, and you invest a lot of capital into it. But also it has a very high reward, right?
Yeah.
So that's really the gist of investing. So one of the things I try to be very careful of when I'm at these workshops and I'm talking to these kids is that I don't put them into a false narrative that investing is the way out. You got to really understand that there's passive income, which is pretty much your side hustles, or in this case, investments, right? And they could come in many forms other than just you creating an account and going and buying and selling stocks. They could come in the form of a 401k, which is something that your employer offers. It is ultimately a retirement plan, but you could always take it out whenever you want, or if you're leaving that job, you could take it with you. And basically, whatever amount you put into that 401k, most often than not, your employer will match that amount. And it could have tax benefits as well. And the same thing with something like a 529 plan, which is a plan for college, and maybe none of us really probably are thinking about that because we don't have kids. But if you have a kid, that's something that's really great to think about because it has tax benefits. You can write it off on your taxes and things like that. And ultimately, it builds up to where your kid turns 18, about to go to college. They can have that extra little something to fall back on when they go there. So really, investing is not what they make it out to be, which is just stocks and bonds, and you kind of get rich overnight. That's not how it works. Me personally, I believe in long-term investing.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest investment you can make is in yourself. Now, back to your point of the 80-20 rule. I don't put it that strictly when I go talk to the kids. I do say, treat your budget like a business would. And what's the number one thing that a business is always looking to do? they're looking to cut expenses. They're looking to cut their cost of operations, right? So when you budget, you want to look for that. You want to look to cut your expenses where you can, because what that means is that's more money left over for you to play with, essentially. Now, whatever money's left over after you budget, let's say you're budgeting for $500 monthly and you make $1,000 and you have $500 left. What I tell them for sure is that no matter what amount that you're getting after you budget, you put 20% of that away for an emergency rainy day fund. Okay. Everybody needs that. Everybody needs that, because, our health is our wealth. And just like that, something could happen where you never know, and I always tell them, can you build a fund where you could go a month or so without working, without having to worry also on top of that? Because imagine that you're sick and now you're stressing about money. What is that going to do? Is that going to make you is that going to make you feel better? Is that going to make you recover faster? No. But if you go into it with a peace of mind that, hey, I could be recovering for a month and I'll still be good because I have this emergency fund. So that's what I tell them. And then after that, the rest of it is for you to play with.
Sure.
Where, we have them visualize a piggy bank. Now you could maybe you put 20%, which is $100 of $500 into your emergency fund. Now you have $400 to play with. Now you can save that for an investment into a house, into a down payment for a house, or into, let's say, your retirement plan, whatever it is. Or let's say you really are knowledgeable with stocks and bonds and you really understand the economy well, to where now you're like, hey, maybe I can put this money into an investment account rather than just sitting around in my savings account. So it's up to you. Like I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not there to tell you where to put your money in. Yeah. But I will tell you this: be knowledgeable about the markets, because to me it's gambling with the best odds possible. Yeah. And that's pretty much the way that I see it. So I try to get them to really visualize and put into action that you're going to have to build up that fund that you're not going to touch unless you're in dire emergency. And then with the rest is up to you. You could put it towards maybe an investment in yourself, which you see as a vacation, going out and seeing how other people live, how things could be so different. I'll give you an example. When I was in 4th grade, I went to Bangladesh for the first time since coming here when I was 3 years old, and just seeing people and seeing the level of poverty that's there, but also the resiliency of people who are happy with simple things, simple things like clean water, with something like having a hot meal. It just really put everything into perspective for me, unlike anything else ever. Where I came back and I was grateful for everything. I was grateful to have $1 in my pocket. And that's something that I recommend to everyone, to really travel, to see how everyone else lives, how the rest of the world lives. And it really puts all your problems into perspective. And I think it really gives you a fresh mindset. So having savings is a big deal, because then it allows you to do the things that you want to do. So I think we need to pass that along instead of a fearful thing. Because here's what my parents did. They were like, whenever you get money, save, because you never know what's going to happen. I don't preach that to my kids when I go to the workshops. I get them to be very positive about what they're doing, to understand that you're in control of your life and you're at a great point in history where we have a lot of things at our fingertip and a lot of opportunities. So take advantage of it.
And I think you said using money like a tool, or financial resources as a tool, as opposed to something that is just, which it is very finite, but something that can be sort of wasted.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, we're going to take a quick break. You are listening to Health in Harlem on WHCR 90.3 FM New York. You can call us with any questions at 212-650-6903. Once again, the number to the studio is 212-650-6903. We will be right back. Stay with us.
WHCR 90.3 FM New York.
Welcome back to Health in Harlem, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maurice Selby.
My name is Giorgio Malouf.
And tonight, okay, I'm sorry. My bad, DJ.
My name is DJ, but you guys already knew that.
All right. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mo and Gargi here at Health in Harlem, and we are talking about the importance of financial literacy and how it can potentially impact your health. So, yes, let's get right back into the conversation. Now, leaving off, we were talking about how essentially money is basically a tool, something that we need to sort of value, and the way that we can do that is really by taking control and making sure that we use it properly, as far as making sure that we have a savings, and that also that we are basically planning for the future and trying to achieve our dreams using this finite resource. Now, as far as going back to sort of the stressors that can sort of develop from this, yes, you had
No.
Okay, so going back to the stressors, like what are sort of some of the challenges that individuals are dealing with when we talk about this? Because I think people have this basic idea that, yes, savings is important, establishing credit is important, but as far as ways in which we can make that happen, like what are some practical strategies that individuals can employ?
One of the biggest things that I've noticed while going and doing these workshops is finding that and this was something that's true for myself as well, is kids where their parents don't pass down their failures financially. And what I mean by that is, let's say, like the example of my dad messing up his credit, that was a very teachable moment for him to pull me aside and be like, hey, listen, this is what I did to mess up my credit, and this is how I'm fixing it, which he did.
Mm-hmm.
So do the same thing, like if you ever mess it up, or don't mess it up at all.
Yeah.
So from that, I feel like we're all we lack confidence in our finances, and I have a theory, and I don't know if it's true or not, but it's something that holds true for me personally. Is at the beginning, I didn't feel like talking about finances because I felt like I don't have millions, so who am I in authority to talk about this stuff, right? But then when I went to these classrooms, and I've seen kids who all have smartphones, but have never heard of apps like Venmo, where you could like send money over, or apps, or even something as simple as direct deposit, and definitely nothing about credit cards, like where they mistaken debit cards for credit cards, and it's not their fault, not at all, because after the financial crisis, I feel like people became very wary and very fearful of the banking system and the financial system in general, which is I understand where it comes from, and I think we should definitely hold banks accountable for their behaviors and for their actions, because our tax money bailed them out pretty much. But it's time for us to use them as what their job is in society, and that's to provide us financial leverage. So going out there, I think that the biggest way that I tell them is, that you guys are credit baby. You guys definitely need credit cards. What's a credit card that's going to get you approved right away so you could get started with it? And then teaching them about what we have, which is the 10 credit commandments. And it pretty much...
Let's hear it.
So the 10 credit commandments, I'm not going to go through all of them, but it's something on the line of making every payment on time monthly, regardless of the amount. Like we stress making your payment in full, but if something happens and you can't make it in full, make the minimum payment, because that's a big part of your credit history. It makes up about 35% of your credit history.
Wow.
And that's a huge chunk, that's a huge chunk. And that's something that my mom always told me, like she was very proud of it. She would boast about it. Like, I make all my payments on time. And I was like, good job, Mom. I don't know what you're talking about, but good job. So that's something that I stress to them. And then secondly, being having a payment history. Keeping your overall balance below a certain amount. Let's say you're offered $100 on a credit limit. That doesn't mean you go out and you max it out and you spend $100. It doesn't mean you go out and you spend $80 or $50, because you have to keep it below 30%, 30% of your total limit offered to you. And that has a big effect on your credit score. I saw it myself personally. At one point, I was using 80% of my credit limit offered to me. And I was like, I didn't care. I'm still making the payment on time. Why is my credit score so low? And then I realized that was the case, because I was using up too much of my credit limit offered to me. So that's something that we stress to them, that you get a credit card not to spend it. You get a credit card to build your credit score. So put something simple in it. Put your Netflix account. Put your put your Spotify account, something that's like under $20 a month and it's like done repetitively. And then you just set up auto pay like that. Everything should be done through your phone right then and there. Banking done all through here. You weren't born in the 90s. You were born in 2000. Learn to use your phone, because this is a powerful computer at your fingertip. So use it. So that's another part. And then of course something simple that we all may not have known, which is having a credit history. Right, so the first credit card you get establishes your history. So now even if you don't use that credit card, because usually it's going to be a card that you're never really going to use again once you really have really good credit and you got great cards, but doesn't mean you get rid of it. Don't cancel it. You keep that, because that established your credit. Like I got my first credit card when I was 19 years old. I'm 24 now, so I've had it for about 5 years.
Yeah. I
wish I've gotten it earlier. I wish I've gotten it when I was 16, 17, but I probably wouldn't have used it well when I was 16 or 17.
Yeah.
So those are simple things like that. And then even simpler things as, like, let's say you're having some sort of financial hardship and you can't make the payment. You got to give them a call ahead of time. Like, hey, can we work something out? Can we move my payment date from the 9th to the 16th next week or something like that? And they're usually very lenient with that. Or if you've missed a payment, something happens, you end up missing the payment, you don't have auto pay set up. And they charged you a late fee, because usually when you miss a payment, they won't report it unless it has gone missing and you haven't paid for more than a month since your payment due date. So, but then they are going to put that extra like $25 that they charge you as a late fee, which is a big chunk. And what they're going to do is they're going to raise your minimum payment for the next couple of months. So give them a call. Tell them, hey, I messed up. I missed it. I apologize. Is there a way that I could, possibly have that redeemed? And more often than not, they'll do that for you. They'll be like, hey, we'll give you this one time, redemption, and you get your money back.
Nice.
So that's a great way to like know that you got to be on top of them. And then one of the biggest thing is to always be making payments. Always, even if it's an account that you can't make the full payments, you got to always make it, because there's a such thing as a term called delinquent account, which basically means that you haven't made a payment on it for, I believe, roughly 2 to 3 months.
90 days, I think.
Yeah, 90 days.
I think.
Yeah, it usually is, because 90 days is like...
It's a long time. It's 3 months. That's
3 months. 3 months. And then you don't want that, because that's a big negative mark on your credit score. And then once that happens, they could send it to collections, which is another negative mark. So it's like all downhill. Like finance is a double-edged sword. Like when you're on top of your stuff, you're doing good, you're going smoothly, they love you. But when you're not, they're going to just pile stuff on top of you, one after the other. And you're going to drown, So my whole thing is, I'm going to teach you when you're young and learn that, hey, you're in it for one thing, getting that 750 plus credit score, being able to put down that down payment on that house, get that asset, get that stability, and nowadays even renters sometimes check your credit score.
Yes.
See where you're at,
In New York City today, it is a reality that in order to get just an apartment, and we're talking about almost anywhere in the city now where they're going to run credit checks, and have sort of your finances out there in the open, you got to be ready for that, especially if you are looking to buy in this city. Definitely that is something very huge. And just one thing I want to add is that as far as buying a house, or as you said, putting a down payment on a car, something like that, as far as the interest rates, because I think sometimes we get lost in, yes, okay, we can put a down payment on a house, or, having good credit can give us access to that. But as far as your interest rates in the future, they're going to be far lower. And in the end, you'll pay far less for that same house, that same car that another individual with a lower credit score would pay. And so this is, again, an investment at the same time as that you're budgeting. You're investing essentially in yourself by making those payments on time, keeping those credit to debt ratios, I think it is. So low.
Absolutely. And that's something that, goes without saying, because we have a chart that we show them where if you go out to buy a car and you have a difference between, getting a 5% or getting a 10 to 15% on it, and it ends up being in the long run tens of thousands of dollars in difference. And it's because they know that you want this car so badly, but you don't have a great credit score, but they're gonna be like, hey, you know what? It's okay. We'll offer you this much, this percentage. And if you're really like looking at it at the heat of the moment, you're just gonna look at it as a small percentage, but look at it in the big terms of like what that means. That's 10% of
Compound
$40,000
interest,
to
right.
$50,000, and it's compounding. And it's really, interest is the cost of borrowing money, and it goes both ways. You know, like if you have an account, or if you have a savings account or a money market account, they pay you interest for borrowing your money, right? But then it's all also tied to risks as well, right? You know, you could go in and you could get that house for 3% interest, getting a mortgage, or you could get it for 6%. And that is a big difference, especially housing prices in New York City, where it's upwards of millions of dollars. That's a huge difference. So you have to go in there with the mindset that I can't look into financing this if I don't have great credit. And especially when it comes to cars, which are a depreciating asset.
Yeah.
Basically, when you leave the lot, you're
That's
never
it.
going to be able to pay you're never going to get the same amount of money back for it, you know? So really, a lot of these things, a lot of advertisements are tied to our psyche, our psychological behaviors for wanting instant gratification, being able to visualize it. Like a car is beautiful, a house might not be, you know, off the bat, and it's more feasible to have it right then and there. Where, you know, that's the whole thing with car dealerships. Like, they want, as soon as you walk in, they want you to walk out with a car, and they're going to do everything in their power to do so. So it takes a lot of discipline, and you don't want to put yourself at a disadvantage by going there with poor credit score.
So, Mohammed, going back to discipline and being able to budget and all these great financial practices. So this all will increase your financial health, which leads to an increase in your mental health and general well-being. It's been shown that up until a household income of $200,000, you're going to keep increasing your mental well-being and your physical well-being up until that point, and after that, it kind of levels off. For any other gains would kind of be negligible at that point. But how can you make sure that you are practicing the best financial practices so that you can make sure that you are keeping your mental and financial health in check, and you're able to prevent yourself from falling into that error, that group of people who have to file for personal bankruptcy from, let's say, medical expenses, which is the number one cause in the U.S. That people have to go through that process.
Right. And you bring up a great point about medical expenses. You know, I personally am a firm believer of having universal health care in America. I think it's about time. You know, we're among the world leaders, and you know, and we don't have that. We can't offer that to our people, and it's something that we should really pressure our politicians to kind of put into place, get the bill out there. But since it's not in place right now, I think a great thing is to have health insurance. And Gargi is someone that, you know, as a young professional, she has a lot of knowledge when it comes to employer-based health insurance, and she could kind of elaborate on that, and then I'll kind of wrap it up with talking about being a freelancer, being an entrepreneur, and how you could get health insurance as well, and you could get coverage at that point as well. So you want to take it off?
Sure. So I have a really great job now that I got as a result of investing in my education here at City College, and not only the financial investment, but the time investment of 4 years of particularly vigorous time. Now I work at a hospital in the city, and I have a great insurance plan, and luckily I'm still covered by my parents' insurance as well.
Excellent.
But
Nice.
that will end the day you turn 26. That you will no longer be under your parents' health insurance. So it's not something you need to think about like imminently, I would say, as a college student, but you can only imagine when you have health insurance, you're far more likely to go to the doctor when you have a sore throat, when you have a cough, when you are feeling all those things I heard in that commercial, when you're feeling shortness of breath, you're far more likely to take a look at the problem earlier on.
Yeah.
When it's still something that can be easily fixed with a over-the-counter drug or with a simple antibiotic, versus if you do not have health insurance, you're going to wait until it becomes an emergency, and you have to go into the ER, and they can't refuse your treatment.
Yep.
And so in that way, you're putting yourself at more risk. You're more likely to be then out of work for a while as you're recovering because you had this emergent situation, as opposed to tackling the problem head on. And it's a similar way, it's like you're budgeting your health.
Yeah.
Can you figure out a way that you are making it, taking care of the problem earlier on, so that you're less affected? In the same way, if you start budgeting earlier on, you're far more likely to have a savings, something to fall back on.
And now, Gargi, I just had a question. How would you select the best possible health insurance for yourself? I always hear these terms: premiums, deductibles, the types of services that they're covering. Some are just essential, some are extended services. So how do you select the best possible health insurance plan to meet your needs?
So a lot of the times when you're walking into your first job out of college, or even while you're in school, and you have to look through the different plans that could be offered to you. There's plans where you'll have a higher premium.
Which is what exactly?
Your premium is the amount of money you're paying every month.
Correct.
Versus the deductible. So if you have a deductible, I had a $200 or $2,000 deductible on health insurance for mental health services. So once I reached that $200 or that $2,000 deductible, which is like 10 sessions with a good psychologist in New York, right? Once I reached that, then the insurance would start covering me 60% for my visits. But that 40% I would still have to pay on my own. So you kind of gauge which has a higher deductible. So if you have a higher deductible, like if you're paying like $4,000 and then the insurance will start to reimburse you, you'll typically have a lower premium or a lower amount of money that you're putting in every month.
And now, would you recommend having a higher premium and lower deductible, or vice versa?
So if you're going to have...
it depends.
So if you're going to have a higher premium, it means you're more likely to be going in to see the doctor more often. So maybe you have a chronic condition, and you need to see the doctor for chronic bronchitis. I fall to bronchitis regularly.
Or a good example, maybe let's say if you're expecting a child, which for a female, we're talking about significant medical expenses for regular visits to an obstetrician, for instance. And so if you have a high deductible and you're paying a lower premium, it's going to take many more visits for you to actually have your insurance kick in and start to fully help you to the maximum coverage of that particular insurance. Whereas if you have a lower deductible where you'll be paying a higher premium, it'll take sort of less visits for you to actually start to get the full benefit of your insurance coverage.
Right, and then additionally...
So it's kind of a trade-off.
Yeah. Additionally, if you look at your insurance policy closely, a lot of times your insurance will help you if you help yourself. So if you have a gym membership, they'll give you a kickback. They'll pay back $200 a month or something like that. So it's just something you have to look at very closely when you're starting your first job. It seems like a lot of like jargon, and it's really like it takes a lot of time to understand it. But it's another part of planning your financial future is looking at your health insurance, because your health is something I think similar to financial literacy, is that if you have good health habits, you're not likely to notice. But if something does go awry, it's going to be a huge block.
Okay, so Gargi, we just have to play the station ID. Just give us one moment.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
All right, so we're waiting for Vinny B of the Vinny B Showcase to show up, and then in the meantime, I guess we'll continue our conversation for another couple minutes. So what advice would you guys want people who are listening right now to kind of really internalize and walk away learning from just this? And it doesn't have to be a full lesson, but just something to get their mind going in the right direction.
So I think for me, planning my own financial future or looking at my own personal finance, there's a lot of fear around it because I felt like I didn't have enough money to even be thinking about personal finance. But it's something you can start with when you have $20 in your pocket. It's never too early to start thinking about it. And once you start thinking about it and you start building these good habits around it, it comes more naturally to a point where now I'm saving money and I get a little rush every time I save money and deposit it into my savings account. So it's not about the quantity of the money you have. It's about figuring out a way to do the most with the money that you do have. So it's one time where it's good to be doing the most.
And then how about you, Mo?
I'll definitely, I just want to add one thing real quick about those freelancers out there, entrepreneurs who are working on themselves.
Sorry.
We didn't forget about you guys. So if you just Google healthcare, finance freelancers, it'll give you a plan that New York State provides for free healthcare, actually, if you're below certain income level. But if you're not, there's Oscar out there. That's one. And then also Emblem Health. And a lot of these have great programs. We can go in and get checked out and everything like that. So don't be alarmed. New York State cares about you as well as other healthcare. Awesome. Now, one of the biggest, I guess the last message that I would like to leave you guys with is what financial freedom did for me is it opened my mind. And there's no freedom like financial freedom. Once you have that, once you are on top of your finances, you could kind of live the life that you want to live, and you could pay for the lifestyle that you want to live. And pretty much my whole thing is when you have your finances ordered, you could do anything you want. Mm-hmm. You could go out and you could achieve your dream. You want to travel, you want to go take that job in LA, you want to go take that job in Miami or Shanghai or or Amsterdam, whatever it is. You could go out and you could do that. You could kind of design your life when you're not worried about money. When, for me personally, going into college, I looked for what major would give me the highest starting salary, and that was the worst way of looking at it. But guess what? When you come from poverty, that's one of the biggest things that you look for. You know, that how can I instantly make money right out of college so I can support myself and my family. Now, so for those that didn't have the luxury of coming into it with some sort of money and having to look into their family, I would say still budget and look for what you need to have in order to achieve what you want to do. Because ultimately, you're going to be happiest in the career that you always wanted to be, in the lifestyle that you always want to live, and you'll see that is going to give you the most payout. Because when you're happy in what you do, you tend to be better at it than what you didn't think that you could do. You know, ultimately.
Sure. Yeah. So it sounds like the resonating message is failure to plan is planning to fail, and that you need to budget for these kinds of life events so that you can maximize your chance of success.
Absolutely.
And that this kind of gives you a level of power and freedom that perhaps you didn't even know that you had. And by wielding the power of the financial system, you're able to rise up. And if you're unaware of the financial system, it will basically be able to take over you instead. Yeah. So it's either you wield that power or that power is wielded against you. So, Maurice, do you have anything you wanted to add before we pass it off to Vinny B of the Vinny B Showcase?
I just want to thank you both for coming in and sharing this information with us and our listening audience. And you are more than welcome to come back, because I think there are some points that we can definitely sort of expand the conversation on and really get some great information out there. Keep up the great work. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Harlem.
It was a pleasure. We'll definitely have you back, and thank you, DJ, as always.
Yes, during finals week. Oh my God, man, you're a beast. She's a beast.
Good job, DJ.
And all right, ladies. Giorgio for setting everything up. No also, we want to thank you, the listening audience, for tuning into Health in Harlem, and we just ask that you do not keep secrets. Share the information that you learned tonight with your friends, with your colleagues, with anybody that'll listen, essentially. And we will be back here, of course, next week, ladies and gentlemen. But we do have Vinny B and the Vinny B Showcase coming up next, so stay tuned to WHCR 90.3 FM New York. This show is dedicated to the memory of Miss Gloria Thomas. Harlem, take care of yourself.
WHCR 90.3 FM New York.